You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 29.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
So, this week I want to talk about how we look at our past and what story are you telling yourself. So, just a little background on how I came up with this. I recently reconnected with somebody that I have had zero communication with for 25 years. One of the joys of packing and unpacking is coming across pictures. And back in 1996, I represented the state of Indiana at the Cherry Blossom Festival and connected with somebody who was representing a different state. And she was kind of my pal for the week as we went and did all the different events that we were a part of at the Cherry Blossom Festival. I decided to reach out to her and found each other on LinkedIn. And it was great to reconnect with someone from my past. And I noticed that when I reached out to her, I kind of gave this snapshot of what I had been doing in the past 25 years. And it got me to thinking about how we tell our story about our past, what we think about our past, when we portray our past to others, what it is that we're pointing out and focusing on our lives. So this week, I want to ask you a couple questions to help you become more aware about your past and if you're past or future focused. This doesn't mean that you have to go back the last 25 years, but just say you went back the last 6 months. And if you tell yourself a story about the last 6 months, what is the story that you're telling? Are you telling one of you not being good enough, not doing as well as other people, thinking that you should have taken advantage of an opportunity more? I should have applied myself more. I should have made the time to do blah, blah, blah. Of course, if you are believing that about you, you're going to feel negative. You're going to feel defeated. You're going to feel upset. And then that will determine the actions that you're going to take in your future. And beating yourself up over the past, it really seems like deserved punishment, that somehow if you punish yourself into action, you'll do it. And many of us believe that if you just beat yourself up enough, then eventually you'll start taking action. I'll raise my hand and say that I have tried that and it's never worked once in my life. I've never beaten myself into success, beaten myself into happiness, and I doubt that it will work for you. So that's what this week's podcast episode is about. It's about looking at how you interpret your past. And when I talk about the past, it's anything that has happened up until this moment. And all of those things that have happened, all of those things that you've done or not done, you are using those things to define yourself. And one of the skills that I like to teach, that I believe is very important to teach, is to start defining yourself by your future instead of defining yourself by your past. So if you're defining yourself by your past, you're just going to continue to create more of your past. The beliefs that you carry from the past are consistently recycling when you're continually believing something that historically has created a feeling for you, and then that feeling evokes an action, and then that action creates a result in your life. So if you want to create something new, or you want to interpret a new idea, you start by creating a belief that you've never believed before. And you do that by shifting your beliefs about your past to thinking and believing new things about your future. It sounds easy and exciting, and then you realize that your future is basically a blank piece of paper, a bunch of white space that does not include the motherhood and the children that we expected to have, but that is okay. ladies. It is fine. You just have to be creative to create your future. And it's much more effort to think deliberately about your future and to create your future than just to recycle the past. And most of us don't even know that the things we're believing right now are basically just recycled thoughts from our past, and we think that they're reality. To decide deliberately to believe a thought you've never thought before requires a tremendous amount of energy compared to not doing anything. But you know me, I don't thrive anymore on living a life in autopilot. So I'm going to ask you to believe a thought that you've never thought before to create a life that you've never created before for yourself, just for the hell of it, just for the fun of it, just for the challenge of it. What I'm really trying to do with my own life is not to just have new insight and not to just have new thinking, but to have it in a way where I'm feeling it and acting on it and creating new results. And the way that you know that you're thinking deliberately, consistently, is that you'll consistently have new results in your life. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking that maybe you are somebody who continuously gets the same results in their life and is somebody who continuously thinks the same thing, that's not necessarily a problem. I'm just here to talk to you this week about how you might try to do things differently and maybe find a way to identify that you do have an alternative to think and feel in a different way. So here's some opportunities to decide if you are past focused. You limit your potential by what you've been able to do in the past. You explain your life by what's happened in your past, and your identity is predefined and hard to change. You explain current behavior by your past and make it hard to change. You make excuses based on your past experiences. Next, you may use evidence from your past to identify as a victim. And so many of my very strong, capable, successful clients have no idea how much they're identifying themselves as victims until we start doing work together. And this is so true for me in my own life. I feel like I'm a very strong, independent woman, and I have areas of my life where I slip into feeling like a victim and identifying as a victim or feeling sorry for myself at times, because it can be hard to identify that in my own self, because I would never turn and look in the mirror and say, oh, look at me, I'm a victim. But we do that, and it's constant work that we continuously do on ourselves because we want to have different results in our life. So next, you don't think about your future enough to create from your future. And what I mean when I say this is that you think about things for your future that you've never thought before, and therefore you take action from a belief that you've never believed before. You tap into your primitive brain. So remember, that's that uncontrolled part of your brain that just comes up naturally for us. So you tap into your primitive brain by focusing on lessons only from the past. What you know comes from past learning and not from an up-to-date information and possibility. And often I hear clients say that they want their carefree life back that they had before they found out that they had infertility, or they want their life back before they went through IVF. And I always discourage this type of past-focused thinking. I like to have clients focus on the future and on a life that they would love to have in 1 year from now or 5 years from now. And many of us carry pain and negative memories about our journey to seek motherhood. Many of us feel failure or our bodies have failed us. And when we define ourselves and our future abilities by these past attempts, we really become discouraged and almost filled with regret. So I strive to look at my past as if it was happening just as it was supposed to happen, and there were just no mistakes. just lessons and preparation. And I'm working hard not to see any reason to argue with my past or to wish that it was different. Because really, it's a waste of emotional energy. And I'm choosing to take that energy and focus on my future and something that I can truly have impact on. And the truth is, you can't go back. Your past is over. You can create a future that's better than your past. Many times, if you ask a past focused person what their plans are for the future, they have like zero idea what they want to do or who they want to be or where their life is going. And they're being defined by who they used to be without taking control of who they want to be. And it's telling when someone I'm working with is past focused or defined by the past, because they'll often say things like, that's just how I've always done it. That doesn't work for me. I've tried it. I've always had this issue my entire life. This is just how I am. I'm not the kind of person who can do that, or that's just me. And when I hear this kind of talk, I know that my client is being defined by the evidence that they carry from their past and evidence that they have been unconsciously looking for in order to justify their belief system. And although I do believe we need to learn from our past and grow from our mistakes we've made, I never recommend that you define yourself by what you've yet to accomplish. You can turn your head around and you can absolutely start focusing on the road ahead. The past is over and gone, and you can't go back there and change it and be younger or be fertile again. Your past is set up to be the person you are today. So love it for what it did and say goodbye and say thank you, because it is time to get excited about your future. So my ask of you is to start creating from your future and stop creating from your past. Your past will just continue to redefine your future unless you actively step in and stop it. You get to decide who you want to be. You can do that by default, and you can blame your past. You can blame your circumstances of infertility or your inability to conceive. You can blame your current belief systems, but that blame will be misplaced because you have the power right now to create exactly what you want in your future. Your past may become unrecognizable to your future self, and this is something I'm relating to so closely right now. And according to Dan Sullivan, the future is your property. It's your property to do whatever you would like with it. Think about that. You could and you can have any future that you want. And if you could, what would it be? What if you always wanted to be a mom, but maybe in your future, you're happy not being a mother? What if you just don't have to carry all the things and continue to dream for the things that you dreamed about when you were in your teens and in your 20s? What if you believed that you could be child-free and happy? What if you could choose what you didn't want to be anymore, and you don't have to be grumpy anymore, and you don't have to be in emotional pain anymore, and you don't have to feel like a victim anymore? You can define the future that you want and live it now. All right, I'm on a roll, okay? So let's review. The number one concept is your beliefs create your feelings, and those feelings create the actions that you do or don't take in your life, which then offer you the results and create the results that you have in your life. So in other words, the beliefs you carry create your reality, and they create what you create. And they also create your interpretation of what already is. So knowing that, you have to ask yourself, where do you want to think from? Do you want to think from your past, or do you want to think from your possibility? Do you want to think from your future, from a place where you get to be fully creative, fully aligned, fully in your zone? I know, I hear you asking, and I'm sure many of you are going to DM me and ask me, how do I do that? And what I want to offer you is that when you do your paper thinking, ask yourself, does that belief come from my past, or does it come from my possibility? I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I can't do that. I failed too many times. I let my partner down. Those are all thoughts from your past. Anything is possible. My body is not broken. I will not die alone. My life has meaning. From that place, believing those thoughts, you can create a completely different experience of the world. And you'll also create completely different results. This isn't just happening for me. This is happening for my clients. Example after example, message after message, DMs, reviews of the podcast, people that are changing their lives by consistently applying these principles day after day and month after month. So this week, I'm inviting you to learn to think from your future and how to redefine your past in this very moment. I'm doing this work on my infertility and on my childlessness, but I just need to be continuously working and believing that my experiences are going to continuously get better than yesterday and the day before. And I am just working to make sure that all of my thoughts about my past are serving me in my present and in my future. And that's what I'm asking you to do as well. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all your love and your devotion to creating the best life that you can have. And remember, it is never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.